I want to recognize a few folks that are here. So when we've got a lot of state and local officials that are here with us today, and I just want to say thank you for that. Representative Paul Tackett. Mark Long, who's here with Kerry Benninghoff's office. Michaela Rickner, who's with Senator Chris Dush's office. Thank you very much for being here. Our county commissioners are here tonight. Steve Dersham is here. Amber Concepcion, I know she's, yeah, there she is. And Mark Higgins, our beloved chairman. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to say thank you, Ezra Naines, for our mayor of State College, for being here as well. Our former home, but still close to our hearts, so I appreciate that. From the borough of Bellefonte, we've got Randy Brockbill, who's doing double duty tonight, representing himself and his wife, Dr. Kathy Brockbill, who started this project for us years ago and retired far too young. Tell her I said that, Randy. Joanne Tostivazi, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Joanna Sedgwick. Ralph Stewart. And then Susan Munnell, who's with the Chamber, Bellefonte Chamber. There she is. Thank you all for being here. I'd also like to introduce Rabbi Moretsky of Chabad of Penn State. The Brit Shalom congregation is here, some of them, with Rabbi David Ostrich. Thank you. Dina Altman, who's our president-elect of Brit Shalom Synagogue. Boaz DeVere. There you are. Charlotte Shear, who was the founder of this project, and you'll be hearing from Charlotte later. And Ken Lawrence, who's a member of the APS and has been incredibly important in this project. So I want to thank you all for being here. This is an important moment for us. When we moved to Bellefonte back in 2004, one of the things that we wanted to do, we've taken pride in being a resident of Center County now since 1946. And in all of that time here, think about that, that's most of our existence at this point. We've been around for 135 years, and 75 of those have been here in Center County. It's been the only home we've really known. And for us, we want to be a valuable contributor back to the community that's welcomed us for so long and be an important part of it. One of the ways that we think we can do that is by using philately to help educate on important issues. And so when this project came to us years ago, and we started supporting the Holocaust Stamp Project in Foxborough, when the time came for that donation, for that project to be completed, and it needed a home, we can think of no better place than the American Philatelic Society. From there, a lot of folks have contributed to making it a worthwhile exhibit, not just of the project itself, but honoring those who lost their lives during the Holocaust. The important thing is the inclusiveness of the project, not just the 6 million Jews that lost their lives, but all 11 million people who died at the hands of the Nazi regime during World War II. And it's important for us to remember that because we cannot allow that to happen again. This is the last day of Jewish American Heritage Month, and something very unique happened today, and I wanted to share it with you before we move on. And that is the U.S. House of Representatives voted on a resolution today honoring Jewish American Heritage Month, this is the last day of it. But in the resolution itself, it says, whereas a 2020 survey of all 50 states on Holocaust knowledge among millennials and Generation Z, conducted by the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, found a clear lack of awareness of key historical facts, including 63% of respondents did not know that 6 million Jews were murdered during the Holocaust, and 36% of respondents thought that 2 million or fewer Jews were killed. Now, it's a rare moment. I spent 12 years on Capitol Hill for Congress to unanimously agree on anything, but they agreed on this. They also urged all of us to take action against anti-Semitism, and I think that this is an opportunity for us to be able to do that. So I want to thank you again for being here. I look forward to hearing from all of our speakers tonight. And with that, I'd like to invite Rabbi Ostrich up to give our opening blessing.
Despite what Scripture teaches, we do not come into the world with nothing. We come into the world with heritage, with ancestral memories that bless us and shape us and haunt us. The Jewish word for this heritage is Torah, and it is the most expansive term. On some levels, Torah is wisdom from heaven, commanding us to seek holiness in life, to live in reverence, and to pursue righteousness. On some levels, Torah is awareness of our place in the world, the beauty and abundance of nature, the emotional and material blessings which surround and embrace us, and the calls of those in need. And on some levels, Torah is the voice of conscience, bidding us to pause and consider where we have gone wrong. This is both a personal and communal endeavor, and we, as members of the human race, must face the fact that we are all too often not angelic. Thus, we gather here this evening to remember a great tragedy and the lessons to be contemplated in its wake. Among these lessons is that the messages of the Holocaust are not for Jews alone, and that we should give thanks that the horrors of hate and genocide are subjects of study by individuals from all religions and cultures. We should also give thanks that part of our heritage as humans is the impulse to remember important things in art, art that is sometimes smaller in size than others, but which always calls our attention to that which is worth our attention. As we dedicate this exhibit, let us give thanks for the noble thinking and action it represents. Let us give thanks for the gifts of the Spirit and the gifts of artistic expressions that we will see before us. And let us give thanks that the divine presence remembers along with us that we are capable of choosing the good and bringing holiness into our world.
Thank you, Rabbi. First, I'd like to recognize Boaz DeVere, who's the director of the Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Education Initiative at Penn State. Boaz, would you come up and provide us with a few words?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you for this incredible project that you and your students put together. I want to start with some bad news and then shift to the good news, if that's okay. The bad news is that despite 50 years of what would appear to be on its face excellent Holocaust education, and I'll break it down in a minute a little bit more what I mean by that. Why is it so excellent? We've had 50 years of it here in the United States. We continue to have it today. Despite all that, we are seeing what amounts to basically be zero results. Scott already mentioned a survey that shows lack of awareness. That's a problem. But there are other problems. You see, Holocaust education aims for more than just awareness, right? Yeah, if people know about it, that's wonderful, but would that be enough? Would we be, sufficiently content? They know about it, but they still hate each other. No, right? We hope for more. We hope for maybe the washing away of hate. We have big aspirations for Holocaust education, as well we should. So in these other categories, are we seeing any results? Let's talk about the uprooting of hate. Let's talk specifically about anti-Semitism. 2021, according to the ADL, was the worst year of anti-Semitism in this recorded history. 22, the one that just was measured and the results were released a few weeks ago, was worse. 36% worse. Now mind you, these are recorded incidents of anti-Semitism. It just so happens that this week alone I learned of 2 unreported incidents. Not documented, but unreported. And I constantly hear from friends of mine who live in Los Angeles and New York about so much else that's going on that's unreported. And here's the most disturbing element of it. In the K-12 space, among students, among our children, among the next generation, that increase from 22 over 21, which was the worst year already, was 50%. So Holocaust education is not working in that category. What about the big cry that we associate with Holocaust education? As well we should. Never again. Is that true? Have we gotten rid of genocides and atrocities around the world? Or is the reality more again and again and again and again and again, sadly? So it's not working. Whatever we're doing, and I mentioned I was going to come back for just a minute, my remarks are brief, that I wanted to come back and talk about, what's so excellent about Holocaust education? Well, it's got some of the most amazing source material you'd ever get your hands on. from Anne Frank's diary to Nights and Fog, a 1958 French documentary that's a classic in its own right, and I can go on and on and on. Primo Levi, Elie Wiesel, Schindler's List. I mean, great social, great programs, great museums, great organizations, but it's not working. So something is missing. And that's where we come in, hopefully, Penn State with our program, an interdisciplinary kind of disruptive approach to say, let's bridge that gap. And I don't have time, because my remarks are brief, to go through all of that. I'm happy to do it at some other opportunity, even one-to-one if you're interested. But what I do want to say is that what are the ultimate goals is to enable students to have not just a passive learning experience where they take in knowledge, memorize it, regurgitate it on a test, and guess what happens the next day, as I did as a kid? You dump it out of your head and you fill it with details about baseball or something, right? But instead to have an actual hands-on experience like this wonderful project that you did with your students that's being exhibited and preserved for eternity. This is a wonderful example of the kind of project that can be lasting, that can make a difference, that can alter the perception of a child and provide that child with something that they can carry on beyond just regurgitating knowledge on a test. And therefore, we at the Penn State Initiative really thank you for this, for doing it, and thank you, the society and this museum, for preserving it, for making it an example, and we plan to point to it and say, look, there is a better way. And here's just one example of many that we can take and ultimately use among many other pedagogical approaches and ideas that we're putting together, but this is a great one, to finally, truly fulfill the promise of Holocaust education. Because the promise of Holocaust education is a better democratic society for every child, for every citizen. And I think with the kind of efforts that we see here tonight, we can achieve it. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Dina Altman and James Altman from Penn State Hillel. If you could speak together.
Hi there. I'm actually representing Congregation Brit Shalom. I'm a member of the board there. Growing up Jewish in Delaware, our families and those Jewish families around us all had a direct connection with the Holocaust, either losing people in concentration camps or surviving those concentration camps. Here at Congregation Brit Shalom, we've commemorated the Holocaust at special services and have co-sponsored Holocaust events with the university and the community at large. The education of our students in our Sunday school program covers our Jewish history and holidays. Our younger students had a brief introduction to the Holocaust this year, but the Holocaust is taught to a larger capacity to our 6th and 7th graders in their Jewish studies classes. And I'm hoping this next year we can have some type of a field trip to come here to see this collection. I hope that the stamp collection that's here will not only impact the Jewish community, but the larger community of central Pennsylvania. I'm going to sit down, Dave.
So continuing with the thread, the Congregation Brit Shalom, our synagogue, teaches young children, starting at second, what grade is it start, first grade or second grade? Third grade, okay. Third grade and up. But once they graduate, then, they're on their own, so to speak, to continue their education. So Penn State Hillel is an organization that's mission is to connect with Jewish students on campus and to make them aware of the opportunities to continue their Jewish education while they're in college. And part of that education, a large part of it, is to continue the Jewish tradition, which is doing good deeds and having respect for all people, regardless of their origin, their religion, etc. So it continues their education. So in doing this, Hillel has co-sponsored programs with the university, with the other organizations, other religious organizations in town. So there is a very strong interfaith connection between our congregation and other religions in town. It's an honor to be able to speak tonight. I'm doing so because Aaron Kaufman, who's the director of Hillel, could not be here. He had a unavoidable commitment on the other coast. So I'm here in his stead. In closing, I would just like to say that we all in the community, Jewish community and outside the Jewish community, have so much to gain by remembering what happened during the Holocaust. Because as we are all aware, the problems of the Holocaust stemmed from anti-Semitism, stemmed from racism, stemmed from many of the same things that we still see in our society. So in terms of the exhibition that we're going to see today, as Boaz mentioned, it's another opportunity to remind everyone, not just young children, not just college-age people, but also adults who are raising their own families, of the importance of resisting and trying to correct the racism and the bigotry that exists in our society. It's not an easy task, but with organizations like Boaz, with education of children in our churches and in our synagogues, hopefully we can make that come to pass. Thank you.
I think after you hear Charlotte speak, you're going to understand why we had a passion for this project too. Years ago, Charlotte started this project at the Foxborough Charter School. She has been the heart and soul of this thing, and no one on this planet has been more eager to get to this moment, I think, than Charlotte has been. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlotte Shear.
Thank you all for coming. This may get emotional. 14 years ago, my 5th grade students read None of the Stars by Lois Lowry, a historical fiction novel set in 1942 Denmark. The children raised questions that plucked at my Jewish heartstrings. What were German soldiers doing in that country? Why were they so mean to Jewish people? Where did Nazis relocate all the Jews they forced from their homes? As a teacher of 10 and 11-year-olds, I was mindful that some children may have experienced firsthand the sting of prejudice, humiliation, or bullying, while others could have witnessed or even participated in such hurtful behaviors. Our discussion of these topics, as they related to the Nazis' actions, resonated with the diverse group of boys and girls in my class. It became even more personal when I revealed my own Jewish heritage and that members of my family died at the hands of the Nazis. The children were stunned to learn that Hitler arranged the killing of 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million children, as well as 5 million other individuals, simply because their beliefs, way of life, or disabilities disqualified them for inclusion in the perfect Aryan race he strived to create. 11 million. The total number of victims was beyond their comprehension. Then one child asked if we could collect 11 million of something to help them see how many people died. Another agreed and said we should show everyone in our kindergarten to grade 12 school what happened when one bad man got away with killing people he hated because they were different. Their idea planted the seed for collecting 11 million postage stamps, one to honor each of the 11 million victims of Hitler's hatred. Each small piece of paper would symbolize an item of value discarded as worthless after one use, reflecting Hitler's treatment of the Jewish people and others. Together, the mass of printed images would underscore and celebrate our world's extraordinary diversity, which Hitler had set out to destroy. It was an ambitious goal, but the children's enthusiasm lit the fuse for the Holocaust Stamps Project to succeed. What began as a 5th grade enrichment activity grew to become a community service learning component in which dozens of middle school and high school students participated. Many designed and worked in teams to complete a series of 18 stamp collage artworks depicting the events and effects of the Holocaust. You'll be fortunate to see those tonight. Volunteers as old as 92 from area towns and organizations helped to count the stamps sent from across America and around the world. In an annual public event, the Holocaust Stamps Project hosted Holocaust survivors, family members, and the grandson of a Gentile couple recognized as righteous among nations, who all shared their stories with audiences as large as 300. Author Lois Lowry, whose book provided the inspiration for the project, attended the celebration that marked its completion. Speaking at Foxborough Regional Charter School in Massachusetts, she commented on the impact of what had been accomplished, and I quote, "Each one of those 11 million stamps is a human being. We are linked to every one of those people who lived, who were loved, who laughed, who lost their lives too soon. Those who actually remember are going to be gone soon. It's up to the rest of us and these collages to tell their stories. It's the human connection that makes you remember," end quote. For one student named Sarah, the Holocaust Stamps Project changed her life. She counted stamps in my 5th grade class. As a senior, she created the final collage, L'chaim, to life, including a lifelike sketch of 2 Holocaust survivors, Sam and Goldie Weinreb. The school arranged for Sarah and Sam to meet. The chemistry between them was instantaneous, almost like a grandfather and a granddaughter. When Sarah learned that the Nazis had cut short Sam's education, she obtained an honorary diploma for him to graduate with her high school class of 2018. Their friendship grew. When Sam's beloved Goldie passed away, Sarah, who is not Jewish, attended the Shiva. Throughout her 4 years as a nursing student in Boston, Sarah made frequent trips to visit Sam, wherever he lived. And she was there for Sam when he passed on, to be with his beloved Goldie. Sarah continues to tell Sam's story, and we'll never forget. Excuse me. I'm grateful to Dr. Mark Logan, whose unending support as school superintendent provided the educational environment necessary for the Holocaust Stamps Project to thrive. As I prepared to retire from full-time teaching prior to the project being finished, my professional colleague, Jamie Drusty, stepped forward to continue the work, adding her intellect, artistic passion, and talent for engaging students in an impactful way. When the American Philatelic Society assumed stewardship of the completed project 4 years ago, I was excited it had found the perfect public venue for its unique student-created materials to begin serving as universal teaching tools. In Hebrew, we might say, this match is beshert, as perfect as the predestined marriage of soulmates. Today, I couldn't be more appreciative of the vision and teamwork at APS that has gone into developing the Holocaust Stamps Project into a world-class museum exhibit of Holocaust remembrance. Thank you.
Charlotte's right. There is a team effort here, and there are a lot of names, and I apologize. I don't want to have to bore everyone with a lot of names, but I do want to recognize the folks that contributed to this. And if you're in the room tonight, please stand up, because I want everybody to get a hand for this. Leonard and Darlene Bloom. Don't be shy. Christian Carpenter, Joe Chen, Kathleen Edwards, Isabel Glaze, Bonnie Goebel, Amy Larimer, Nick Miller, Marion Mills, Susanna Mills, Taisha Osipova, Heidi Rhodes, Aaron Siemens, Denise Shivery, Eric Spielvogel, Dr. Kathy Brockbill, Fred Fox. These are all the folks at the APS that contribute to this. Now, there are other people as well that I'll recognize, but I want to say that I'm incredibly proud of this team and the work that they did to lead this forward, and I can thank each and every one of them for the effort they put into it. Thank you all very much. Charlotte, who you bet, and Jamie Drosty, for those of you who are coming back in June for our open house, you'll get to meet Jamie, who is the inheritor of this project when Charlotte retired, although I would say semi-retired from working on this.
I never really retired from it. I lived 3 miles away, so they couldn't.
As well as Ken Lawrence, Justin Gordon, Danny Spungen, and Kyle Mayowski of the Florence and Lawrence Spungen Family Foundation. We also got contributions from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, John McQuarrie II with State College Framing, Jay Matthew, who's with Matthew Multimedia, Bob Bowersox of Victorian Signs, and Sam Komlenek. Where's Sam? There he is. Who helped us with construction and work on the wall. And I'd also like to single out the most important contributor to me, that none of this could be possible, and that's the membership of the APS. The contributions through the Mighty Buck Club, as well as individual members of the APS, really went a long way to making this a reality. So I'm going to bore you with one more story, and then I'm going to let you go. Why is this relevant, and why is philately connected to the Holocaust? In 2020, the light extinguished for Morris Rosen. Morris was 98 years old. He lived in Baltimore, Maryland for most of his life. He was born in Dubrovnik, Poland, and at 16 years old, the Nazis invaded his homeland. In an attempt to escape, he went eastward towards the Soviet Union. One of 10 children, all of whom managed to escape from their home, Morris, unfortunately, was forced back by the Nazi soldiers as he was trying to flee. By the time the Holocaust was over with, half of Morris's brothers and sisters would be dead, as well as his parents. During the occupation of Poland, Morris started off first in the ghetto, and then ultimately going to work camps to concentration camps. In 1945, he was finally moved from Poland to Theresienstadt. By the grace of God, he survived for 2.5 months there after a harrowing death march through Germany in February to be liberated. After a stay at a UN camp in the Czech Republic, Morris moved to New York City and then subsequently to Baltimore, Maryland. Dealing with the after effects of the Holocaust gave him anger issues, depression, loss of sleep. And at first, doctor treated him with pills. And after 2.5 years, Morris, in his own words, said, "I was an addict. I wasn't cured." He went to go see another doctor, and in the course of that, the doctor threw the pills in the trash can and said, "You need to find a hobby. Don't you have a hobby?" And he said, "Well, I collected stamps when I was a young man." And so the doctor said, "Collect stamps." And I'm not making that up. He tells that story again and again. And what he would tell you is that taught him more than anything how to cope. And if the story just ended there, that alone would be powerful. But it doesn't. Morris, as many survivors of the Holocaust who lived in the United States would tell you, remained fairly silent until the 1960s when the Skokie case came about. I think most of us here probably know what that is, but the American Nazi Party first tried to march in Chicago and then ultimately Skokie, and the reason why they picked Skokie was because it was the greatest concentration of Holocaust survivors in the U.S. in a zip code. The Holocaust Memorial for the state of Illinois is there now. I actually was guided through there by 2 survivors a couple of years ago. It was very powerful to hear their story. Realized that being silent wasn't going to stop the problem, and it wasn't going to make anti-Semitism go away. And so he found his voice. first speaking locally, then volunteering with the Reunification Center. One of his pride and joys was reunifying a brother and sister who lived in the same hometown as him after being separated for almost 50 years. That's amazing. He also became a volunteer at what would become the Holocaust Museum. Even at the tender age of 98, once a week, Morris would get on a train in Baltimore, Maryland, go to Washington, D.C., and serve as a translator of Polish who would help them understand the locations that they were dealing with at the time, and be a docent and give tours and tell his story again and again. And even if I stopped there, I would tell you this is amazing. But something incredible happened in 2020. He was thumbing through an auction catalog. He is a stamp collector after all. And he saw a postcard that caught his eye. The dealer formerly of Baltimore lived in California, and he called him up and said, "How much do you want for this postcard?" And the dealer says, "Well, it's at an auction. You have to bid on it." And they kibitzed back and forth for a little bit before the dealer, Ed Rosen, no relation, as he told me to say, Ed said, "Morris, why in the hell is this thing so important to you?" And Morris said, "I was 17 years old when I sent this to my sister in the Soviet Union, and I want to get it back." Here's why, Paul, stamp collectors understand this. The reason why that story is important is that for 80 years, that thing traveled first through war-torn Germany to the Soviet Union in the middle of World War I, in one of the greatest atrocities that was happening at the time. And for 80 years, a collector took care of that thing, carried it, handed it off to the next generation to make sure that it happened again. So that, amazingly enough, a 97-year-old man could see it in an auction catalog and say, "That's mine." Our job as stamp collectors is to be custodians, not to be keepers. Our job as stamp collectors is to honor those who came before us by preserving the things that they did when they were here. For a long period of time, the mail has been important. Stamps have been important, and they represent a lot of different things, but more importantly, they tell you the history of people who are not in history books. Most of you wouldn't know Morris Rosen until you came here tonight. But by being able to tell his story, we can tell you what happened to him, that he survived, and that he prospered. And he carried that story on. And we have a duty, as Morris said when he was speaking to an audience at the National Holocaust Museum, "I'm not doing this for me. I'm telling the story of those who died." And as their lights are being extinguished, we have a duty to tell their story and carry that on so that nobody ever forgets that this happened. And the mail is one of the realest, most tangible ways that you can see that. And when you see this exhibit tonight, you will understand that. You cannot deny the reality of it when you hold it in your hands. I look forward to sharing that with you. I thank you all very much for being here. And without further ado, let's go see it. Thank you. So before I have them do that, I want to introduce Fred Fox. Fred, come up here for a second. Hey! I need to tell you an important story about this exhibit. When Charlotte and Jamie contacted me and said that they had tried to find a home for these stamps and didn't know where they could find one, and I said, "Sure, I'll do it." And we came and picked them up. It was a lovely fall afternoon. It's a great reason to go to New England.
2 trips, actually.
But when we came and picked up the first material, the thing that they said to us is what vexed everyone is how to display those stamps. And I thought, well, that can't be hard to figure out. Typical executive thinking, right? I'll let somebody else figure it out. This is the man who figured it out. So Fred's vision is this. And I think this is an incredibly powerful way to exhibit 11 million stamps. And it is shocking, powerful. I remember when Kathy told me about the exhibit idea, and they kicked it around the table, and I can tell you that there were folks who said, well, that's a lot. I don't know if people are going to be able to handle that. And the truth is that what happened during the Holocaust was ugly. And it needs to be real, and it has to be honest. And this is an honest and real way of doing it. So Fred, I want to thank you, because you had a vision, and you put it into place. And Leonard and Darlene, where are you? God bless them. They helped dump 11 million stamps into this cage. It's settled about 2.5 feet since then. And my fear is it's going to settle to the point where we have to fix the fence. So we're going to keep that. I got Fred around just long enough to keep it going for me. So, but anyway, Fred, I want to thank you for that. It was an honor. Woo! Let's cut this ribbon. I got 2 more things to do. So, first is, wait, who am I supposed to do first, Matt or
Mark?
So I got Mark. Sorry, Mark. Mark Long with Representative Benningham's office. Mark, where's the? I'm supposed to be gripping brains. Again, I see a elected guy in there. So, wait. Are you ready for the flash photography?
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, I want to thank you very much and thank Representative Benningham for getting this recognition for us through the Pennsylvania House. This will be displayed with this and remembered always.
It's an honor.
Thank you very much. Michaela? Michaela's with Senator Dush's office. She tells me she just graduated from Lockhaven, by the way, so congratulations on that. Senator Dush was kind enough to do this for us as well. He is our new senator here, recently drawn into the district. We lost a tenant as a result of that. Senator Corman had his office right here, but anyway. And now I'm going to put the commissioners on the spot. They were kind enough to invite me over to their commission meeting yesterday. We had a wonderful conversation. I said this and I mean it. It's rare that I see elected officials who actually know the subject, discuss it engagingly, and understand it. But all 3 of them, without exception, really made some valuable contributions to the conversation yesterday. I can't thank them enough for that. But they unanimously adopted a proclamation. So with that, I'll find my way in all of you. So we can have a proclamation that everybody gets a shot at it. I'm going to do one more recognition, then I'm going to let these folks cut this ribbon.
I want my things.
Susanna Mills, who is our editor-in-chief, took over the project from Dr. Bracco. If Kathy was here, I didn't make her come up here and put her on the spot, and she would hate me for it, but she'd do it anyway because she's a good sport. But Susanna took on the mantle of this when Kathy retired to see the project through to its completion. She has worried about every detail here for the last month and a half, and she's done a phenomenal job, all the while putting out a 100-page magazine every month. So Susanna, come up here for a second. I want everybody to say thank you. Any works for us? We have cookies and punch. Good job, Susanna. Thank you. With that, I'm going to invite our commissioners and our representative and Charlotte.
There you are. Hiding in plain sight. Come join us.
It's the invisible rabbi.
I was looking high. You were low.
Susanna assured me that this is going to work.
Fingers crossed.
Tell me when.
When you're ready, go for it.
3. I don't know if anybody knows, but artist in his own right. And he does some amazing work. And this does not surprise those of us who've known Fred for many years that he's capable of this level of accomplishment. Thank you, Fred. Not as important as this.
Oh, please. You're gonna do a closing communication for us? Thank you so much.
Just a closing thought from our tradition. One of the questions that's asked is, why was humanity created in one person, just with Adam? And the answer is to teach us that we all come from the same source, that we're all related, that despite our station in life or our backgrounds, we all go back to the same background. And of course, Adam was the one created in the image of God. It's all in us. God's in us. And it's a wonderful thing that we can recognize the divine presence in each other and give us, if it's all, the respect that God wants us to give.